Yo, what's going on? It is Andrew. Okay, so today we're gonna really dive deep into Amazon FBA. We're gonna really understand all the different type of business models that you can use. This might be a 15 to 20-minute video, really giving you a detailed explanation of what your options are when it comes down to Amazon FBA. You might already have a specific option, but maybe you want to hear about other business models. You want to hear about uh, net percentages that are kind of normal for the specific businesses, and you kind of just want to know maybe what's right for you. So that's what this training is specifically designed to do. And then I'm going to tell you which one I do, and then see if it might be a good fit for you. So first off, in the Amazon space, there's two different ways that you can sell on Amazon. You can do FBM or you can do FBA. Now, the only difference between FBM and FBA is there's a big difference. FBM specifically stands for fulfilled by merchant. That basically means that you're going to handle all the customer service. You're going to handle all the shipping. You're going to actually have the packages either at your house, you're going to have them in a warehouse, your garage, storage unit. It really doesn't matter where you're going to have them, but you are going to be in possession and in charge of those packages. That means when an order is fulfilled, let's say you have 100 orders, you have to pack 100 orders and ship 100 orders today, or somebody on your team does. Now, that's not what I do. Most people, and what's most popular is something called Amazon FBA, and that is stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, which basically means Amazon handles all the customer service. They handle all the shipping. They handle literally all the logistics and basically everything. They handle the Karens, which is the most important part, so you don't have to deal with angry customers. But anyways, so that's probably what you've seen here. Talk about you always hear Amazon FBA, Amazon FBA. Now, what most people don't know is yes, Amazon FBA is technically one model, but there's really four different types of business models that you can run under the Amazon FBA business model. Now, I don't want to make this confusing. I'm going to make this as simple as I possibly can make this. Okay. So, first off, let's kind of go over each one of these and what they mean. We're going to go over the margins of each one. We're going to go over the pluses and minuses of each one. So you can kind of know when you want to choose. So first off, let's talk about retail arbitrage. Retail arbitrage is the act of going into a specific store, like a Walmart, Target, or Target, as you want to call it. Maybe you're going into a Marshalls, TJ Maxx. You've probably seen this on TikToks. You've probably seen people talk about this maybe on Instagram. You've probably seen somebody go into a store and be like, "Hey, look how much money I just made, blah blah blah. This thing sells for 25 and you can get it for $50 at Marshalls." Those type of people, you've probably seen those videos before. That's something called retail arbitrage. Now, is this really scalable? I know some people that do $50 to $100,000 a month in retail arbitrage, and let me tell you, it is a lot of work. When I say it's a lot of work, you need to drive to stores basically all day long within like an hour, 2 hour range of where you're going at. Uh, and you're basically scanning stuff all day long. You put a lot of sweat equity in. On top of that as well, once you get the inventory, you load up your car, whatever it may be, you have to take it back to your house. You have to prep it, get it to Amazon, so then they can handle the FBA for work for you. Right now, you also technically could do retail arbitrage with the FBM paired model as well. So that's another option. But again, most people, when they do retail arbitrage, they still send it to FBA because it just makes more sense. But still, it's a lot of work. And honestly, if you're wanting to actually build a real business, that's probably not what you want to do at all. Now, another important thing to mention here before we kind of go into online arbitrage is retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and wholesale all sell brand name products. So the absolute easiest example I can give you is this watch right here. So this watch right here is something called a Belovo. Not that fancy of a watch. I'm not trying to flex on you at all. It's like a $300 watch, okay? Nothing fancy. My wife got it for me for Christmas. My wife literally goes, I told her I wanted a Rolex. She literally was like, no, you can't get a Rolex. It's cost $10,000. You're gonna lose it. And I'm like, wait, what? It wasn't the price that scared her because I was like, hey, I make a lot of money. It wasn't the price that scared her. It was more of the fact that she thinks I'm going to lose it because I have a common occurrence of losing sunglasses and losing watches. I think she's bought me like two watches in the past and I lost both of them. Generally, I keep them for about 3 to 6 months before I lose them. But hey, I've had this one for over 7 or 8 months now and I haven't lost it yet since she gave it to me. So I told her if I can keep this for like 2 years, let me get a Rolex. And she was like, oh, I bet. So, anyways, if people still say bet anymore, but maybe I'm just too old for that. So retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, they also have brand name products like this Belova right here, or also this Casio calculator. So this calculator is branded Casio. Okay. It's like this phone is branded an iPhone. Okay, just like this cup right here is branded Coleman. So what we're doing is we're selling products that already have sales history, that are already popular, that somebody else created. So we're selling somebody else's brand. Okay, that's what retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, and distributors are. Now, private label is something completely different. We're going to get into private label a little bit, but just so you know, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, brand name products. Okay. Now let's kind of talk about basically about what online arbitrage is, how it differs from retail arbitrage, and all that good jazz. So you probably noticed the word arbitrage in retail and on the online right before it. Arbitrage simply means it's the act of buying something for cheap and selling it for more. It's literally what the arbitrage word means. So if you're thinking to yourself, what the heck does arbitrage even mean? That's what arbitrage means. So retail obviously is retail, physical retail stores. So online arbitrage, you could guess online retail websites, not retail stores, but retail websites online. So basically what I do, and this is actually the business model that I specifically run currently, with slightly a little bit of wholesale possibly mixed in. But online arbitrage is basically where you go to online websites, you buy their inventory. You don't buy 5 or 10 units. That's a miscommon conception. I buy 50, 100, 200, 300 units of stuff all the time from retail websites. A lot of them don't care. You buy the inventory from those websites, and then you simply send it to a third-party fulfillment center. The third-party fulfillment center then will send it to Amazon for you, for Amazon FBA. So one, it's hands off. Two, you don't have to find the inventory. You can get somebody to do that for you. And three, you don't have to do any customer service, fulfillment, any of that good jazz. And you don't have to walk into stores. Okay. So you're thinking to yourself, well, that sounds pretty good, but I want to buy from a wholesale/distributor. So why wouldn't I just go to a specific wholesaler? Now, a wholesaler or distributor, all that basically means is you're going to a source that deals with the brands generally directly. Sometimes they don't deal with them directly. Sometimes they're buying. Sometimes a brand will sell to a distributor, and then a wholesaler buys their products from a distributor. Technically, you're getting it like the third person to touch it, which obviously would not be the cheapest way to get it. But if you find a distributor/wholesaler and you're like, cool, let me, go buy it from them, why wouldn't you just go straight to them and buy it and skip the online arbitrage model? Well, there's a couple different reasons. First off, the first reason is online arbitrage has higher margins than wholesale. I'm going to repeat that. Online arbitrage has higher margins than wholesale. Now, retail arbitrage also has higher margins technically than both. On average, I would say your net margins, retail arbitrage would probably be like 40%. Online arbitrage, they're closer to anywhere between 15 to 20%. Wholesale net margins at scale are anywhere between 8 to 12%. Okay, now 8 to 12% is a lot. So if you do $1 million in sales, you might only make $100,000. So that's kind of the way wholesale works. And the main reason for that is because there could be 10, 20, 30 Amazon sellers that had the same distributor account that all had the same pricing. And so because they all had the same pricing, it's simply just the pricing just keeps getting beat down on Amazon. Now, probably thinking to yourself, cool, what doesn't it have on online arbitrage? It actually doesn't. I do something called building moats, basically, where I find inventory, and sometimes we buy stuff on sales, and sales only last 3 to 5 days, and then I buy the inventory, and then people can't find it again for that price for maybe a month, 2 months down the road. So basically, therefore, I'm buying stuff cheaper than everybody else can get it. Okay, so that's the reason online arbitrage has higher net margins than wholesale. But again, they're both the same thing. Online arbitrage and wholesale, they both sell brand name products. So we could both be selling this exact calculator. It's just going to differ where you get the product from. So retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, all sell brand name products. The only difference between the models is the difference between where you get the inventory from. You still send it in an FBA. Online arbitrage and wholesale technically are still hands-free. You can technically make them not hands-free if you want to, but I would not recommend it. And then retail arbitrage, you have to go into the physical stores and buy the inventory. It's not hands-on. It can be eventually technically be hands. The second part of the business model can be hands-off when you send it in an FBA, but the first part is you have to touch it. You have to ship to Amazon. So don't do that model. Now, we know online arbitrage has higher net margins than wholesale does. Let's kind of talk about what it takes to get started in retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and wholesale while we're talking about it. And then we'll talk about all these same exact points with private label. So first off, retail arbitrage, you can start with literally as like $100. Like if you have no money to your name, just go start with retail arbitrage. It's the best thing to do. Now, online arbitrage and wholesale, realistically, if you do not have $50,000 cash at a minimum, I would not start with wholesale. The first thing you have to keep in mind, especially if you're a brand new Amazon seller, is think about trying to first off open up a wholesale account. opening up wholesale accounts is almost kind of like sales. Like you can't just go to a random distributor online and say, "Hey, I want to open up an account." That's not how it works. They're going to tell you, "Sorry, we're not accepting Amazon sellers. Bye bye now." Now, in order to get wholesale distributor accounts, you almost have to set up like a CRM system, almost essentially, and call, email, and get in front of these suppliers and basically do anything you can to open accounts. It is difficult to open profitable wholesale accounts. You could probably contact 100 wholesalers and you might only open 5 to 7 accounts out of those 100 wholesalers, and only maybe 1 or 2 of those would be profitable. So that kind of gives you the numbers of exactly how hard it is to get wholesale and distributors, and why, if somebody has access to it, I'm not just going to give you my wholesaler or distributor because I worked really hard to get that account. Okay. So I want to be perfectly honest with you. Nobody is going to give you profitable wholesale distributors anywhere in the Amazon space. It does not happen. Now that we know how that it's a little challenging to get these accounts, if you get these accounts, obviously they're gonna. If some of them are profitable, they're profitable. But the main issue with a lot of these wholesale distributor accounts, they have an order minimum, right? And even if they do have an order minimum of only maybe $10,000 per order, imagine you as a brand new seller going to place a $10,000 order. How do you think that's going to work out? Or like that's a kind of a big risk because you've never done anything. You don't even know how the process works. So starting with wholesale, if you haven't done any experience or you don't have any experience at all, it's kind of risky. Now let's also talk about, different margins when it comes down to wholesale specifically, and having more money equals higher margins. So for example, if I come in to a distributor slash wholesaler with $10,000, okay? Sorry, my back itches a little bit. And the guy down the road's coming in to wholesale slash distributors with maybe $100,000, $200,000 of buying power. He has 100, 200,000. I have 10,000 buying power. I'm going to go to the Mr. X sales guy and say, "Hey, Mr. X sales guy, I want to buy 100 units of X, Y, and Z product to hit $1,000 or $10,000 of order minimum." The next guy is going to go and say, "Hey, this listing is actually selling 600, 700 times a month. Let me go ahead and buy 400 units, Mr. Sales guy. Hey, since I'm buying more units, what kind of type of discount can I get?" The first guy that has $10,000 is going to get no discount. The next guy is going to get like a 10% discount, 15% discount. Now, why that matters is all because of margin. So now, if this guy is getting a price that's $3 or $4 cheaper than you, technically he can lower his price out, and eventually it's going to make you non-profitable in the listing because, again, wholesale does have lower margins already as it is, and so it is competitive. Now, at scale, if you have a crap ton of money, then wholesale 100% makes sense, and it is a fantastic business model to start. But if you do not have the cash, realistically, wholesale is not even in your realm to even consider. Okay, so that's the reason I do online arbitrage, and that's the reason I started with online arbitrage. If you know my story, I had $10,000 cash. That was it. And then I went and got an additional $35,000 0% interest loan, and I used that to start my online arbitrage business. When I tell you, like, I struggled the first 1 or 2 months, I struggled. And I figured out a bunch of different things to do specifically, and we'll kind of talk about that there'll be other videos that kind of talk about that, or other videos you can just kind of hop in and see those. But when it comes down to online arbitrage, you're going to start with a lower amount. Even if you have $50,000, $200,000, I still have people that want to start with that because it has higher margins. And realistically, from a scaling opportunity, I would say online arbitrage has a limit that you can go. I would say the limit could be anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million a month in sales with online arbitrage. Now, for the average person that maybe is not super savvy, that doesn't have all that, their limit might be 200-300K a month with online arbitrage. Which still, if you're doing 200K a month at like 17-18% net margins, you're talking about $35,000 in profit per month. And most people can live off $35,000 in profit per month. So, that's kind of what we're talking about with online arbitrage. So that's why I do online arbitrage. Now, let's talk about private label. This is going to be a big topic here. There's 2 different types of TikTok / reels that you generally see on social media that kind of entice the regular person that's interested in Amazon that has no freaking clue that these business models even exist. If you're watching this and you're like, "Wow, I had no idea all these business models even exist. I don't even know which one to do now. Oh my gosh, Andrew, you're giving me too much information." If you're one of those people and you've seen TikToks, Instagram reels, you've probably seen the retail arbitrage TikToks and reels, but you've also seen the private label TikTok and reels. Basically meaning, like, if you go to Alibaba.com, AliExpress, you find this product for $1, and then it resells for $20 on Amazon, and I'm going to buy 20 units of this and resell it. Sounds great in the videos, but it's not that simple. Now, for private label, you for sure need deep pockets. There's absolutely no way to create a private label business with less than $10,000. Anybody that's telling you that is lying to you. I think minimum you would need about $40,000, $50,000 for me personally to feel comfortable before I even told you to start a private label business. So now you kind of know like the limitations of how much money you realistically need for a private label. Let's kind of talk specifically maybe about like how the business model works and different things like that. So first thing you need to do, you need to identify a space or gap in the market where there's an opportunity for a specific product. Now, you can't just go to Alibaba.com, buy products, and send it to Amazon and sell it. It does not work that way when it comes down to private label. For private label, you need to identify basically a gap in the industry or a gap in the retail market where you can find product that's kind of similar to that to Alibaba. You can talk to the manufacturer. You can get them to slightly change the actual product in the manufacturing plant, which you're going to need to do because you're going to need to be somewhat different. Because guess what? If you create that one product, or if you just buy a normal product that's already on Alibaba.com, 50 other people can copy you. It's not going to be that difficult to do, and then the market is now oversaturated. So you want to slightly change the product a little bit. You also want to create your own brand image, right? So now you're building a brand. You're going to get them to put that brand image on the particular listing for you. So basically, they're going to say, hey, we're going to put your brand and we're going to stamp it in the bottom right here. Or we're going to put your brand, like if you're making cups, they're going to put your brand right here where Coleman's brand is. So with saying all that, a manufacturer is not going to let you order 100 or 200 units or something. They're going to make you place a pretty big order. I would say realistically, you're going to be in at minimum $10,000 for just your first order, maybe 20 or 30, depending, maybe even sometimes up to $50,000 or $60,000, depending on how expensive the item is. Now, keep in mind too, the more expensive the item, the bigger barrier to entry there is, because a lot of people, when they start private label, they try to start with a cheap $15, $20 Amazon product that they can buy for $2, $3 on Alibaba, and it's just the easiest entry, and they can spend $10,000 on an order there and make it happen. The really good products that do really well are kind of more expensive products with private label, specifically because, again, the barrier to entry. Most people can't go invest $50,000 into the first purchase order. Now, keep in mind, just because you launch a product from private label on Amazon does not mean it's going to be successful. Because keep in mind, there's absolutely zero demand for your specific product. There's zero demand. Okay? If you create some random calculator that nobody's ever heard of before, there's zero demand for your calculator. Think about that. You have to create a brand. And then once you order 1,000 units, you need to create the listing on Amazon. Then you need to have an entirely different budget for running ads. So the way Amazon works is it's kind of like a search engine, exactly like Google is. So for example, if you go into Google and you type something up, there's going to be 3 or 4 ads that first pop up. So if I type in the word Casio calculator, there's going to be 3 or 4 different websites that sell that Casio calculator. All right? This makes sense. Then Google is going to give you the next best trusted websites that they're not paying for ads. Okay? So Amazon's the exact same way. If you don't run ads, you're not going to be at the top. Now you're trying to think to yourself, well, cool, maybe I could just post it and it's just naturally there. The only way you're going to naturally be on page 1 on Amazon is if you run ads to get it there. Okay? Amazon's going to always put the products on there that want to have the highest reviews and 2 that have been selling the longest, and they're just a stable product, so Amazon trusts them. If you post a product today, it's never going to be on page 1 ever. And have you ever been to Amazon and scrolled past page 1? Page 1, you have to scroll past like 40 or 50 products just to get to page 2. Nobody ever scrolls past page 1. So if you're not on page 1 on Amazon, you're not going to make any money. So let's pretend you invested $20,000 in this private label launch. Then you're going to invest another $10,000 in ads. Imagine you do that and it doesn't work out. Now keep in mind, I've talked to a bunch of private label people. I have private label friends that do it at a high level. And it's difficult to start unless you have a high cash flow. They tell me that realistically about 50% of the products that you will launch will fail. And these are the experts. So there's a 50% chance you're going to lose all $30,000. Okay. It's a super risky business model to start. Now, let me kind of give you the positives instead of giving you the negatives here. Private label, you own your own brand. 1, You don't own your own brand with wholesale, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage. So automatically you're owning something. And now if you own something, you can sell it later on. So it becomes a sellable asset down the road, which is a very big deal. So for example, if I go launch a private label product and it's doing $100,000 a month in sales, that's fantastic. I could probably sell it for, maybe $1 million, $2 million down the road. And that's like a legit sellable business. But if I have a wholesale, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage business, none of that's sellable because you're selling brand name products, right? You can't sell the relationships that you have with distributors or the secrets that you have with online arbitrage. You can't sell that stuff. Technically, I kind of do sell it from coaching aspect, but you can't actually sell the specific business in itself. Okay. Now that's the difference between private label. Private label is a fantastic business model, but I recommend private label to people that have already been doing online arbitrage / wholesale for at minimum 1 to 2 years, and then you can use that money to fund your private label business. So you don't have to just specifically stick to one. You can start with online arbitrage, do that for a year or two, get really, really good at it, kind of build your team, get it up and running by itself, and then start private label or start wholesale. Good for beginners. I would never recommend starting private label for beginners ever. Wholesale, kind of the same thing. It's a little bit riskier of a business. You need a lot of my cash. If you don't have a lot of my cash, you can't even consider it, honestly. And then the only thing left is online arbitrage, and I wouldn't do retail arbitrage unless you just want to go into stores and sweat all the time. And so that's where most people fall into the online arbitrage category when they first start off. I would say a high majority of people do this when they first start off, especially if they have brain cells. And that's kind of like the differences between them. Now, one thing I didn't mention is the profit margins for private label. So let's kind of go over that really quick because I know I forgot to mention that. Private label business margins are generally pretty good. They're generally like anywhere between like 30, 35%. I've heard some people throw around numbers of 40% net margins. Not sure if I specifically believe that. Maybe on one or two products that they're killing it on. But for the most part, net margins are 25, 30% return on investment, maybe even 35% if they're absolutely killing it again. So they are, again, higher, but it's obviously a lot more risk. So just to kind of give you an idea, if I'll give you a couple of different scenarios of where I think people should start. If you're already doing online arbitrage and you have at least $50,000 to $100,000 in the bank and you want to slowly start transitioning, I think wholesale would be a good opportunity for you. If you're a brand new Amazon seller that's never sold on Amazon before in the past, and you have anywhere between $3,000 all the way up to $50,000, maybe even you have $100,000, online arbitrage would be a great place for you to start. If you have over $100,000 of liquid cash, online arbitrage might not be the best fit for you unless you're already doing wholesale and you're trying to add online arbitrage in kind of to your reservoir. I have met and talked to several people. I actually have multiple students that had 7-8 figure wholesale businesses, and they're like, hey, I want to do online arbitrage too. So they come to me, they already have a 7-8 figure business, but they're saying, hey, I want to add online arbitrage to kind of like my bank because it's kind of like an extra income source. And they also want to add private label as well, so they're kind of working on both at the same time. So that would be another option if you're already a 7-8 figure Amazon seller and you're saying, hey, I already do wholesale, I want to add online arbitrage. That's also a possibility. But if you have $350,000 in cash, online arbitrage is 100% where you need to start. Retail arbitrage, I wouldn't start with retail arbitrage, guys, unless you have a less than like $1,000, $2,000. Now, keep in mind too, if you have a credit score of above 700, you can get 0% interest funding, which again would be the online arbitrage starting point as well. And so that's kind of what I recommend for most beginners. So hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully this training makes sense. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, cool, where do I get products from online retailers at? Obviously, you can get it from like places like Target, Walmart, different things like that. And wholesale, obviously, you go to distributors. Private label, you go to Alibaba. Retail arbitrage, you go into the physical stores. Now, I did a lot of talking here. If you have any additional questions, you can go ahead and comment under this video. And yeah, if you want to book a call and you're interested in starting your online arbitrage business, go ahead and book a call. The link below to book a call with my team is right there. Peace.